Hi and welcome back to my channel. I'm Tony, and as you know, I'm building the M26 Pershing tank, this incredible 1:6 scale full metal kit from Armortek. Apologies, I've missed a week or two. It's only because my son, my editing guru, if you like, was on holiday, and he's back now, and he's caught up, and we can get back and start loading more videos up. The last time I left you, we had temporarily installed the batteries. We tested the tracks, got them working. We tested the gun elevator, this thing here, and the turret rotation, and all working beautifully. And since then, I've received the balance of the option packs from Armortek, which is the smoke, the recoil, and the sound. The sound packs. But today I'm going to concentrate on installing the gun elevator and the gun recoil. And you can see I've installed the barrel. I've already installed the gun recoil, but I'm going to bring the camera around and talk you through that installation. I've done that because it's awkward, and because I've got to get right into this tank. I thought filming it would be difficult, but I will talk you through the installation of that, and then I will show you the rest of the install for the gun elevator and how we connect all of this up and get it working. So I'll reset the camera and we'll get cracking. Right, so I've zoomed in. As you can see, it's quite a congested little area to work. Regardless of the size of this turret, it's still quite difficult to work inside it. So previously I'd fixed this down just to stop it from getting lost. I'm going to remove this to get it out of our way, and as you can see, it's connected to the main wiring loom. However, I would recommend that we just this bayonet connection here is designed so that one is all fixed. When you want to remove the turret, you simply just disconnect this. This part of the wiring loom will stay inside the main tank. We'll just take that out for now. We don't need that for now. And then this obviously is all the electronics or the wiring for the main turret, so we can remove that for now, and then I'll talk you through the install of the recoil. So a couple of things, very straightforward. One thing, or the first thing to note, is we're doing this upside down. What I might do is just zoom in a little bit more so you can see. Sorry guys, there we go, and just move the camera. There we go. So we're doing all this upside down. Obviously the manual will show you it the right way up, so just bear that in mind when you're working on this, and you can't do this any other way other than rotate the turret around and do this like that. So you have this main retaining bracket here which holds the servo, which then connects to the, if you like, the recoil arm, and then it's bolted in with 4 M10 cap fixings here. Now I haven't, as you might see, this is quite loose, and I've kept it deliberately that loose, because I want to make sure that when it does recoil, that it does, you know, how much adjustment needs to be made. I might tighten it up yet, but what I have definitely not done is used any thread locker on this at this stage. Then we've got the main bracket here. We've got the servo, this very powerful servo, which needs to be a powerful servo to be able to draw the gun barrel backwards and forwards. That comes in from the rear of this plate here. And one thing I had to do is just remove, there's a couple of sort of plastic shoulders on this servo, and Armortek show it being positioned installed from the rear as shown here. And in order to do that, I just had to cut away the little bits of plastic in order to, or the shoulders, to be able to fit that in there perfectly. This goes in with 4 sort of M3 little 10mm cap screws and nuts. Again, no thread locker on this at this stage. Then you have your servo arm positioned like this, because it's pretty much as they show in the diagram, but obviously upside down. And then we have the link arm here, which is always a bit of a loose fit, so you want that to be fairly loose. So my hands in the way, but that needs to be fairly loose. I never tighten this up. What I do is, I'm going to contradict myself. There's a little bit of thread locker on this, but this is loose. This isn't, so if I was to move that, you know, there is a bit of movement in this nut here, because I want this to be all fairly loose. I don't want it to be too rigid, because it may affect the operational aspects of it. And when the servo engages, this servo arm rotates back, and that pulls the barrel back like so. I'm not going to do that too often, because you shouldn't really force a servo. And that's it. Another point of note actually is this retaining bolt here, which basically screws into the end of the barrel. Very, very sharp. I hadn't realised that, so I cut myself. Not a bad cut, just a minor cut. Nothing major. So just be careful when you're handling this. If yours is like mine, it's pretty sharp, just remove the sharp edges with a file and just wipe clean, and you'll be fine. And then this is just a retaining to an M4 retaining bolt through here. And again, I've just put a tiny little bit of thread locker on that, but I haven't tightened it up too much because there needs to be a little bit of play in this. So that's it. And the only thing there is you've got your little servo connected up there. So what I'm going to do now is just to show you, so we've disconnected the main loom, but this needs to be plugged into a few things. Plus we've also got the lighting loom which has to go in. So the lighting loom is the main loom for the barrel, which is this. Now let's just zoom out a little bit and I'll talk you through that. Okay, so we now need to put the LED light in for the muzzle flash. Now this can be a bit awkward because obviously you've installed the main gun now. You've got the retaining nut here, the thread of that, plus you've got a hole down the end of the barrel here, which if you were just to try and thread this through, you'd be lucky, I guess, to get it through in one piece. So what I've done is I put a draw wire in. So this is just a long piece of brass wire. I've now got it threaded out the end of my barrel. I don't know if you can just about see that. And what I'm going to do with this, I'm just going to tape the LED bulb to this. What I'll do is I'll just tear a bit of that off first. I'm just going to tape it along the length of it and hope that it doesn't come off in the process. This is how I had to do the Tiger. And just don't go over, don't be overzealous with it. All that like that, and that's taped to that. Now what we've got to do is just gently try and pass this through, pushing and pulling at the same time. There we go, it's out the other end. I don't know if you can see that, it's just popped out the other end, and you can see the amount of cable left on that. So that is now out the other end. I'm going to tie that off down this end so it doesn't slip back in, because it can do. So that's that, and then the next thing we do is we've now got this the recoil power module, which is this neat little bit of kit. Sorry about that, it's a really busy day again with motorbikes, and that guy should have a silencer on his, but anyway, that aside. So this is the little recoil module, power module that comes with it, a really smart little bit of kit. And then with the LED muzzle barrel, there's a tiny little plug on that, and that goes into, it's quite clearly labelled. I think you can probably not see that, but I'll zoom in actually so you can see that. Ooh, zoom in and reposition camera. There we go, that's better. And so it's clearly labelled LED, and on the instructions it tells us that this little cable here goes in to point 1, with the red cable being on the bottom. So that goes on that, like so. Now this thing will live inside the turret, and you'll have to use a bit of double-sided Velcro tape to secure it to the inside the turret. I might just have it upside down on here. And then we've got the 5-volt converter. So this takes you 24 volt down to 5-volt converter, and you can see that. This plugs into the recoil module, and that goes into the position 2, and it even tells you black, red and white, and the cables are done so so that plugs it into that. Then this will then plug into the other power lead here, and then your little servo here, which takes from the servo out into this, goes into position 1 on RC out, so that goes in like so. Then this will go onto this main cable here. Let's do it so that it's the right way. Whoops, the right way round. Just dry fit that for that. That's the bit that goes into the tank. And then your 5-volt converter plugs into that, like so. And that's it. I mean, apart from the gun elevator, which we'll do in a moment, that's it pretty much set up. Now, what I'm hoping to do is once we've got the elevator installed, I'll get this round, we'll turn it round, we'll power it up, and we'll test the recoil and the gun elevator. The recoil may not work so well because I haven't plugged it in. It has to be, the sound card needs to go into this as well. So once the sound card goes in, it connects and it syncs, if you like, to the muzzle barrel light. And the sound, so you get that sort of the gun sound as it fires. So that may not work, but what I want to do is I do want to test hopefully the recoil and the gun elevator a little bit later on. So I'll just take this apart for now and we'll crack on with the gun elevator. Right, so it's started to start the gun elevator. Now you just again bear in mind that everything's upside down from the instructions. So obviously when we're looking at this, we're installing it upside down, so just be mindful of that. There's no other way of doing this. So what we do is we put the main retaining bracket on first, and they're on with some M4 cap fixings and some nuts. Now I will be thread locking these because this takes a lot of abuse. So they go in from the top on, as you see here, so we'll see the nuts on the bottom. So what we'll do is we'll just put the first one in, a little bit of thread locker on that. I mean, there is a bit of movement on this side to side, but I think if we go dead center, we'll be fine, like this. Dead center of the fixing I'm going to work to, and it's just offset, as you can see, on the actual bar itself, so that's right. Put this nut on first, and I'll put the thread lock on afterwards. This is a little bit fiddly. Put both of those in. It's yeah, it's kind of, it goes against the brain, if you like, doing it upside down. So that's that. Just do a bit of tightening up on that. I'm going to try and get those a bit center. I've only got thread locker on one for now. I will put it on the others when I'm happy with it. And just by the way, what I've done on the LED light, you can see is I'm now tugging on this, and it's not coming out. That's because I've just put a cable tie on the end of that, not tight, just on the end of it to stop that sliding back, because the last thing you want is this, inadvertently, as you're working on all this, is to slide back down the barrel, because it's just a nightmare to get back through. So just thought I'd mention that. So that's the retaining bracket for the gun elevator in position. So the gun elevator itself will then sit, again we're doing all this upside down, but that's fine for now. This is exactly how it goes. So the main cam is on here, and the business end, if you like, is here. So there's a nut and a washer. They very kindly provide us for this, and that, I think that passes through. It doesn't. I don't think it really matters, but just going to thread that through like that. hopefully this comes out all right on the camera. I'll go and get the big boy Allen key. Next size up. I keep telling myself I can't believe that I've got this far already on this incredible kit. And as I said, I've absolutely thoroughly enjoyed building this model. You know, and a massive credit to Armortek for the design team over there for coming up with such a great design for this tank. Yes, it's had its little challenges, but you know what, when you get to this stage, all of that pales into, you know, it's not important. Hoping that this is going to start working itself through, and it is. Sorry, my hand's in the way. Just what we're trying to do is just get this sort of reasonably centre. And then this nut goes on the end. No need for thread locker because it is a locking, if you like, nut. I'll tighten that up in a moment. So that's that. That's how that operates. Like so, or pivoted like so. We'll tighten this up in a moment. So that's that pretty much. Next thing will be putting the retaining blocks on the main gun mount, which we'll do right away. Right, so what we need to do now is put the main mounting blocks, if you like, for the gun elevator onto the main gun block here. Now again, we're doing all this upside down, so just be mindful of that when you're reading the instructions. So this is the angle that I've got the main retaining bracket positioned on. It does come with an angle like this, as opposed to showing it straight in line in the instructions. So you just need to do a bit of working out. Obviously, this being upside down, this arm needs to be down rather than up in the instructions. I'm sorry I keep banging on about that, but it's upside down, so we have to be careful. So that one's going to go in there, so we'll pop that one in first. I would use thread locker on these as well, because this takes a lot of abuse, and you know, you're talking about moving a huge amount of weight. I'm just going to loosely pop these in initially just so I can find the hole. That's clear, I don't know. It looks alright on the camera, I think. A little bit of thread locker on that. Just on the actual end of the thread. Always nervous about putting thread locker on these in case something goes wrong or we make a mistake. So I'm only putting a little bit on the end. Tiny little bit of thread that's on show there. And just tighten those up. Sorry, I know it's not very, it might not be clear because we are working in very, very tight spaces. So that's the first one in, and the bracket should be on the inside, not on this side, and pointing down, because we are working upside down, like I keep saying. Now the next thing is, again, we've got this bracket, so we're going to position it like so. So when it goes on to, sorry, let's get this right. It's going to go like that. So on the inside and in that angle, again, upside down. I mean, I know you can't do anything other than what Armortek show on the instructions, because if you showed them upside down, I'm just going to double check that I've done that right before I put any. Yeah, I'm happy with that. They're both running at the same angle. Because if you'd actually showed the instructions upside down, we'd all be a bit, you know, we'd all be a bit weirded out, right? But anyway, this is the only way I think you can do it. Thread locker definitely on these. Imagine the tension and the stress these go through. That's that. And I'm just going to put, as we've done before, this 30 odd mil. So I was just going to put that in there a little bit. A little bit of thread locker just on the edge of the thread there, just as we catch that. So it won't be too much of a hardship if we need to get it out. I had one of the guys that follow me ask me a question about, I think he locked in a nut or something, or a bolt. But you know, don't panic. I mean, yes, this stuff is amazing, and if you know, if you ever had to get these out, it can be difficult. But if you've got a hot air gun, it makes life easier, because what that does, it just melts or warms it up enough to soften the thread locker, and that allows you to retrieve the bolt or the fixing without damaging anything. I've had to do that a few times in the past. Can't remember if I have to do it on this, but so those are in. Thread locker out of the way, outside the camera. Right, okay, so then we have this long connecting bar that goes through these here, and when you're winding this up, I'm going to put this right at the end of its, sort of around the end of the thread for this side. Take that one off, because this now will have to pass through. In fact, we'll have to go in. Take it off altogether. So go in this side. Put the nut on one side, doesn't really matter which end. And this is going to be jolly awkward, this. I'm going to pull this through like so, because now I've got to get this elevator, pop all that on the end of that, which is going to be awkward as anything. In fact, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, I will probably go in the other way. So to just pass that through the other one. Did say it was awkward, and I am doing a warts and all build on this. I'll just put that on that end. That's probably going to be better, actually. Yeah, there you go. Learning on the job, so to speak. So now we'll pop this elevator, just I'll support that for a bit. Come underneath this. You can probably not see this. I'm hoping you can. And that goes through. You can see that's actually connected up now. This is in the way, so it really makes it awkward. I mean, I could have probably just done this without filming it, but then I think that it defeats what I'm trying to achieve with the whole warts and all type approach. There we go, that's in. And just oh dear, I mean, honestly, this thing winds me up. With the camera on, nothing seems to want to work. But anyway, I'll put some thread locker on that in a moment. But that is it, effectively. That then goes, we'll push that down. That needs to lock into that position. Right, so I need to get this, I need to try and, I'm not going to be able to lock that until I retrieve I'm going to have to power this up and wind it back in, because it's just too far extended for me to be able to lock this down into position. So I'm going to have to put a bit of power on this. No harm done. So we'll do that in a moment, and I'll be able to get that positioned. Right, so I've just powered this up temporarily, because what we've got to do is get this angle bar. You can just see that moving. A bit more. Move that along that. There we go. And that is in. So again, you need to have it needs to be connected to the power, and then it will work. So that's brilliant. I'm really happy with that. So I'll disconnect the power now. We'll fix this in. We'll connect it all up. I'll set it up, and then we'll test the whole thing together. Right, so got everything set up, albeit a little bit Heath Robinson. I've just connected up the main connector, which connects the whole electronics in the tank to all the electronics in the turret. So all the electronics now tidied up in the turret. I've velcroed the recoil motor module to the side of the inside of the turret. And what we're going to do now is run a test just on the rotation and the gun elevation, just to see if it's all working, so I can then put that to one side while I start working out the rest of the electronics in the tank. So I've turned my radio set on. I can see that the receiver's bound. I'm just going to power up the tank now. I'm going to come out of shot, and then we're going to have a good look and see if we can get this to work. So I've got all this clamped with timbers and you know, trestles. So I'm fair. There we go. So now I can see it's rotating. Let's see if the gun elevators. Oh, inadvertently turned the tracks on, and we can see the Wasp is going for a little ride on the tank. So the gun elevator is working. I think it looks pretty good with the gator, actually. Again, it's not 100% accurate, it's just an interpretation of it. Incredible to think that this tiny little motor for that turret's actually, and there we can see the gun elevator. I don't have the recoil working yet, but that's because it's all to do, it's syncing with it, the sound card, and I haven't installed the sound card yet. So now we can see that's all working really well. Happy with that. So what I'll do now is I'll disconnect everything, put the turret to one side, and I'm going to start to look at how to arrange the electronics inside the tank. Right, so ahead of trying to work out arranging the electronics in the tank, I've received all the remaining packs. And as I said before, I was going to start looking at arranging the space in the tank, but I think this smoke unit needs to be built first and positioned into the tank. So it'll help me decide, if you like, the way forward. I'm doing this video in two parts. So I got home from work today and I just want to get this thing done. So I thought I'll build the smoke pack with you guys, or the smoke unit with you guys, and talk you through any of the issues I had with that. And actually it looks a little bit more complex because this is the upgrade. I'm just going to clean the inside of it. This is the upgraded smoke unit that Armortek have brought out. So you get the intent is that you get a large puff of smoke on startup, and increased, and then it sort of retracts back, and then increased smoke as you accelerate and decelerate the tank. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how this looks on the M26. So I've gone ahead and installed the base plate to the main smoke unit itself. Reasonably straightforward. Only 4 little countersunk M3 6mm fixings for this, which comes with the smoke unit pack itself, and then a few other things that we need to consider. And you've got the main element, the heating element here, and there's a mat that goes around that, and you basically have to work this around, and I'm going to staple it along this seam here, and and it's fiddly as anything, and we'll do this in real time, and please forgive me. As I said, this is a proper warts and all type video. Now obviously once you've got the matting around that, you're not going to get it through the hole in this box itself. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to hold that as tight as I possibly can, get a stapler and staple that through. Take that out so I know where that's marked, so I know that's where the staple has to go. Now go and put that in there for real. They do tell you to staple this, so you know I'm not doing this Tony's Workshop style-y. And that is it, and I'm just going to check that that still slides in there, and it does. And then what you do is when it's in the smoke box, you just fold this back like that, and it sits inside the smoke box. So that's that. Now this screws into this plastic fitting here. I'm just trying to work out the best. I think it goes in that way, and it does. So that just screws on to that. I'm only doing this hand tight. I'm not using any thread locker or anything on this. So that's that. And then this comes into the smoke box through this hole here, and this is where it gets a little bit tricky. So I'm going to position that inside the box, and then I'm going to slide this through, and then I'm going to, you have to try and get this to thread onto into the hole. Now this is definitely going to go wonky when now the camera's on. Of course it always does, just it is awkward. That's it. It's going in, but it's, I don't know whether I've cross threaded that, so I need to be careful with that. It's just awkward because you've got the matting on it. That feels better. I don't want to cross thread this. The temptation is to do that, and then it goes in at an angle. This is so awkward. It feels like it's going to go in now. What I'm going to do, in fact, I'm going to turn the camera off, and you watch, it's going to go straight in. And as I suspected, it does, but now I'm going to have to use my mole grips. Just going to open these up. Just to really don't want to cross thread this. It's going in nice and straight. Just awkward. So there's probably a better way of doing this, but I find the mole grips probably the easiest way of doing it, and that's inside. So that is effectively the smoke box. Let's pull that thread off. Smoke box assembled, the main heating element inside, and the matting attached to it like so. So that's that as far as that's concerned. Now we have to worry about, we have to get the lid on. One of the things actually I'm considering is actually how I'm going to fix this onto the tank, because it's going to be awkward because the battery tray is already inside and assembled, and I'm just looking through the instructions to see that it effectively is just going to be so awkward because the motors are installed and all the rest of it. Now this would be effectively, you've got to fix it underneath the battery tray in through the middle hole here and the middle hole here. I'm actually going to be able to probably get one fixing on this end, and then I'm going to probably have to use like a metal weld glue to just fix it into place. Otherwise I just won't be able to get a fixing down here. And the metal weld glue that I use is it's proprietary stuff, not super glue. It's actually just quite a dense material, and it goes off very, very quickly indeed. And this will never come off once it's bonded. So I don't want to do that just yet, in case I have to move it out of the way, but I'm just going to assemble the whole smoke unit in real time with you guys, and then we'll take it from there. So that's that as far as that's concerned. Then we have this top lid, and the orientation of that is like, let's have a look, it's like so. So it goes on like that. You've got 4 holes here, and I believe these are going to be cap fixings that go onto these. Let's have a look. Yeah, 16mm M3 cap fixings that go onto this. But ahead of that you have, which this I believe is the filler. This is the little filler connection. So you connect your filler hose, this thing here, to that. That's what you put your smoke oil into, and so that just gets threaded on. I'm just going to just test fit that to make sure that it goes on without too much hassle. It seems to be a little bit tight. Oh no, it's fine. Again, no need to use thread locker on this because it's not a huge amount of vibration that goes around. I'll just put a little spanner on that. Just get it on there tight. So that's that. And then this, I believe, will be the exhaust. So this will go on to, I believe, has to try and get on to, actually you think you put your copper, I think you get your little copper fixings and they go on this. Let's have a, I believe that's the case. So we'll have a look at that in a moment. But anyway, that screws onto the top of the lid also. Just going in hand tight. That is on there hand tight. So that's that. And then we've got a couple of holes here which you then push through some M3 8 cap fixings that can, which we will secure the fan, which is in this bag here. So this is the fan, which will generate and push the smoke around or blow the smoke up into the tubes. So that's it, like so. That sits, so look, I think pretty much sure it sits in there like that. So yeah, so it's basically just, it'll sit on its sort of mount, and the idea is that it sort of sits here and draws the smoke out. So there's a looks like a 3D printed little mount, very similar to the Tiger, that's bolted onto this main lid, and we're gonna have to do that before we put this lid on top of this, of course. So let's bring that back into shot on top of this. And they are fixed with, there we go, they're the M3 8mm fixings. And we just find those M3 8mm cap fixings, yeah. Really pleased so far anyway how things have gone. I think the gun elevator and the rotation, the turret rotation, are brilliant, but I think it's going to be tricky. Unlike the Tiger, where I took the top of the turret off and you can get access to everything, I think when it comes to calibrating and setting up the recoil, it could be tricky, but I'm not worrying about that just yet. So we're just going to position this where it's supposed to go. That, I'm going to put this on first. I think that's the right way to do it, but builders that have already gone ahead and got to this stage, you're probably screaming at me going, no, don't do it like that. But anyway, I'm doing it like this, and as I said, I'm doing warts and all, mistakes and everything else. Let's make sure I get the right tool, and that is the right one. Where is it? There we go, that's the right one. So it sort of sits and cantilevers over the back edge of that. Tightening it up again. I'm not using any thread locker on this. I don't want to at this stage. I don't think I need to. That's in there like that. And the fan, oops, sits on there like that. And then we bolt that through 2 holes. So let me show you that. Left and right. And that is using a 25mm cap, and that's in here in this bag. And we're going to have the reciprocating nuts. Now I've got a bag of nuts left over, but they do give you more in this little kit. So it pops through, because pop that into that. I'm going to loosely put the nut on that while I get the other fixing in. I really don't know how all this stuff is supposed to fit in here. Huge amount of kit to go inside what is effectively a small hole. So that's it. Now what I am going to do is just this junction here. I don't know if you can see that. It needs to be sealed, and they do give you in the pack. They give you a silicone sealant, and I think that's what they give you to seal around the edge of that. I don't know if you can see that, because you don't want any of this smoke escaping from that. So I will actually just going to wonder if I could do this without. No, I'm going to have to take these off. Sorry guys, I'm going to take this off. It's going to be awkward, and I'm going to put, just pierce the lid of that, and I'm going to just around doing this away from camera, but you'll see. Not very tidy, but it will do its job. Put the lid back on that, and then we go again, and then this will go on top of that, and should seal that up to stop any smoke escaping. Probably can put a dab of thread locker on that as well, just to stop anything with nuts on. Let's wipe that off. Does worry me, because they can work themselves loose. Put a little bit of thread locker on that. hold that. I'm going to push this together so that it tries to create that seal. Put a socket on the back of that to stop that from turning. Just making sure that that is still tight, sealed against that, and I think it is. I'll probably put a bit more around the leading edge here. Now, tighten this up, tight, and just checking, I probably will put a little bit more of that silicone just along this edge here. And then, excuse me a minute, we'll put a little bit of using a small delicate piece of wood. I'm just gonna, I don't want to use my fingers for this, just gonna spread that equally along that, just getting it into all those little same on the back here. Now that's going to have to be left to dry before you handle that, because you will get it everywhere. Throw that. So we'll leave that to dry, and we'll come back. I mean, we'll move this over here. We'll come back and finish the assembly.
2 very boring minutes later.
Right, so that's now dried. The magic of camera action and what have you. Before we seal this up, so it's really important just to note that this matting is what absorbs the oil, and it needs to be in contact with the heating element, which is on the end of the cable, which I'll show you in a second. But it also needs to be in contact with the base of the box. So as I showed you with the staples, probably the best way to do it, and that'll be fairly stable inside that. Now I'm also going to use the silicone that they provided just to apply a little bit along, just to seal this, because I don't want any smoke escaping. I'll spread this around in a moment. I don't want any smoke escaping from any part of this, and they do tell you to do that on the, I'm just going to use this little bit of off-cut of very thin balsa wood that I used to use on my diorama modelling. I always keep stuff, never throw it away, because you never know when you can use it. I mean, I haven't built a diorama for a long time, but I use this very thin, flexible wood, like balsa wood almost, for many things. Everything from roof tiles to cladding and everything else. So that's spread onto that. That now will go onto it like so. Then we have these 16mm M3 cap fixings, which will clamp this down and into place. Just try and find it. Yeah, it's gone into that hole nicely. And the final one on this side. And now all 4 of these fixings are located. We can clamp that down really, really tight, and you get a good seal. keep thinking about this and how all of this is going to fit inside the tank. As I keep saying, the Tiger hull was really large, and it was quite easy really to get all that inside it, but we'll see very shortly. Let's go around and tighten these up. That's that. I'm just going to get a wipe just to wipe the excess of that off. Don't want to get it on my hands if I can help it, although I do have the barrier cream on, which does always help. And that's it. Fully assembled smoke unit, or smoke box unit. Now, the principles of this are reasonably straightforward. We'll work out the hose in a minute, but there is, just open this up. This is the main cable, or power cable, with a switch, which we're going to have to cut into a piece of perspex to mount, if you like. And that's the heating element. I don't know if you see that. That's the heating element, and that heating element basically sits inside here. Now, unlike the Tiger, this actually comes with quite a helpful little holder for this, which you just secure in with a couple of fixings into the end, like so. So we'll do that now. So that's hopefully they supply those, and they do. It's two little M2.5 cap fixings. Sausage fingers struggling to get them out. There it is. And we just get the right tool. And that's it. We'll use a bit of thread locker on this, just into these little holes here and here. Pops into there. The other one. And then just straighten that up. I might have to adjust this if I can't get the heating element to stay in. What I need to do is get it further in, so we'll push that back. They are slotted for that very reason. Again, I don't see how you could do this on the tank itself. There we go. What I'm going to do, I actually like to get this heatproof shield inside the brass fitting itself, so I'm going to use something to just, but not a fairly blunt, just to try and encourage that to go inside that. Sorry if you can't see this that clearly on the camera. There we go. That to me is the perfect fit for that. So Now we can tighten these up. And that's it. So that's your smoker unit and your main heating element connected to it. And this little bracket here is an ingenious little addition. I did not have that on the Tiger, so what I had to do with the heating element on the Tiger, I had to wire it so it didn't come out. So that's it, that's in. And then everything else just needs to be connected up to the electronics, and we're good to go. Obviously now the next thing I'm going to sort out is the, if you like, the plumbing side, the pipe work and the exhaust. So we'll have a look at that in a moment. Right, so all the sealant is set on the smoke unit, and I've managed to install it, and I managed to get one fixing underneath this. I don't know if you can see that, there's one fixing here. I'll try and point that to you. So you can get your hand, so this fixing here, you can actually get your hand under the front edge, and if you crank it down tight enough, it actually fits it really nice and firm. So that's the smoke unit installed, and really all I want to do for today is just talk about the switch. I mean, look, you can see this is just an absolute mess. Nothing's fixed yet. I've just loosely installed it, or loosely put it in the tank, because I need to work out the best way to do this. But obviously there are certain things that have to be fixed in position. Drive motors, for instance, and the smoke unit has to go where it has to go. I'll work out all the plumbing another time, but basically this is it. It's installed. I've taken the switch apart. When I say switch apart, let me just show you this. So I've cut a piece of Perspex. I've just cut a slot in it, and that's going to sit on the back of the tank like so. And I'm just going to have the switch push fitted into that, and I'm just going to reconnect that up just so you can see. So that's position 1. There's no power on any of this at the moment. Position 2, and then when that is installed on the back of the tank, I'll be able to access it. I'll be able to snap that into place in a minute. I'll be able to get that. Everything's so. There we go. I'll be able to get to that through the rear, the vents at the back, so that'll be able to engage the smoke unit. And then there's a couple of things that you need to connect up. The fan needs to be connected up, and there is a wire in here somewhere. Oh, there it is underneath there. That it's just an absolute spaghetti junction, but I will be tidying all of this up. So this connects to the red live. The red live here connects to the just check, yeah, to the fan, and yes, smoke fan, and again it's all beautifully labeled, so can't really go wrong. Then we have a little smoke fan loom like so. This obviously connects into the receiver, which is currently sitting here, and this here connects into somewhere on the, oh there we go, connects into that. I've already plugged it into the main power module, so effectively, you know, I'm not going to start it up, but if I was to, that would actually, you know, if I put some oil in it and got this working, it should work when the tank starts up. But anyway, that is all loosely fitted. I have my work cut out to be able to install all of this. At the moment I've got a Perspex shelf in the middle, and at the front, you can't see that, it's just out of camera shot, which is where I'm looking to install. Maybe I'll just pan that out a bit. There we go. So I'm looking to install the main breaker switch here, so when I come I can actually get into it and control it from here. And the batteries are laid down on their side, not permanently fixed in yet. I haven't put any angles or anything in there to hold it at this stage, because it's going to need some working out. At the moment it's just a mess, but I will work it out very shortly. So I'll come back to camera in a moment, but as far as I'm concerned, this is as far as we're going to go today, and I'll be back in a sec. So that is it as far as I'm going to go today. As we know, we've just loosely installed everything, pretty much just to test things. We've got the turret working, the gun elevator working, still got to get the recoil set up, but that will all happen once the sound card is installed and set up and everything's all nicely synchronized. So that's as far as we're going to go today. Again, it's me, Tony, almost built my M26 tank. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe because I've got more in the pipeline. There's still a bit of time on this, probably got another couple of videos to go, because the next thing really is for me to sort out all the electronics, tidy them all up, and then start synchronizing and getting everything to work in harmony together. We'll then take the tank off its table and we'll take it for its first test drive, and if it all goes well, we'll get it back onto the table, we'll put the mud guards on, and we'll put the markings on, and we'll do some weathering, and then it will be finished. And of course, once it's finished, I'm going to face off the Tiger against the M26 Pershing, and we'll have some fun with that. But as I said, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe and stick with me because I've got another one in the pipeline. I'll tell you all about that towards the end of this build. But for now, thank you so much for all your support, all your comments. Again, if you like this, thumbs up, and I'll see you real soon.